This is my pleasure. It's my pleasure and privilege to be with you, the next generation. I'm the last generation. But seriously, I also want to thank Hong Kong Polytechnic University on behalf of all of us for such a wonderful event and all the hard work the team have done. It's absolutely amazing. And well done all of you to be here. As you know, I'm a judge, so I can't say too much about what I'm seeing, but I like it a lot, and it's wonderful. So I'm going to take you on a fast ride this morning. Are you ready for something very fast? Good! Inspiration, I hope. Inspiration. Think of yourselves as I think and talk about some really wonderful people. Because we're going to talk about heroes and heroines of entrepreneurship. So let's get on with it. This is what I'm going to really quickly talk about. Let's have a look at the world, because we can only live our lives in the context of the world. Can we create a world without borders? Think about that. It's not a political question. In your minds and my mind, we can create a world where we break down the barriers. That's what you're doing here. Cultural understanding is a fabulous thing. Imagination, creativity, innovation, entrepreneurship, that's why you're here. That's what this is all about. And dreams. We talk about dreams. They're very important. Now, I make no apology for introducing you to Rufus. He is my 8th grandchild. So say hello to Rufus. And say hello to the rest of my family. And when this picture was taken, Rufus was inside the lady with the green dress there. So we have a big family, and I'm not just showing you this because I'm proud of my family. I want you to think that we are all part of a worldwide family, and that's a very important consideration. Because we can create a world without borders. In our minds, we can cross the barriers, the political barriers and all the other barriers. And education without borders is part of that. And you are doing it here. Anyone know where that is? It's Xiamen. It's the university campus, my second favorite university in the world. I'm a visiting professor at the University of Xiamen. It's only 1 hour from here in Southeast China. It's a beautiful place. Wonderful. And here is my first hero. Whenever I go to Xiamen University, I take the time to go and look at this statue. The great benefactor who started Xiamen University in 1921. As a young man, he went to Malaysia, made a fortune in Malaysia, brought the money back to China and started Xiamen University. And that is Mr. Tan Kah-kee. So, this is my favorite university, or part of it. Now, some of you will have been there. This is Trinity College in Cambridge. Wonderful scientific college. Many great people have been there. And as I'm talking about great people, don't forget that some of you will achieve greatness. We don't know which ones yet, but some of you will, and I hope it's many of you. Some of you will be the heroes of tomorrow. So this is not just a story about people of the past. It's about us. Trinity has a great scientific tradition, and the word scientist was first used there by William Whewell, who was the master in 1835. We had the first European Science Park. I'm going to the Hong Kong Science Park later today, and there have been some wonderful alumni. And I'm very pleased to say that Cambridge University, even though it is 802 years old, has a very close relationship with Hong Kong Polytechnic University, and we want to make it closer still. Wonderful. Now, that's my eye on the world. Let's think about the world and how it's changing. You like my eye on the world? We should look at how the world is changing because it gives us clues to why we need a lot of innovation, a lot of entrepreneurship, and a lot of new thinking if we are going to, especially in Europe, survive in the way we want to in the future. All this stuff on that slide is changing. Globalization, many, many things are changing very, very quickly in the world. And you know, as I say to my friends in Europe, this is a message from my friends in the West, a lot is happening east of here. And we all know, don't we, that global dynamics, the seismic changes in the world economy are absolutely massive. The influence is moving from the west to the east, from the north to the south. And lots of the people of the world live in India, China, Asia, and elsewhere. And in those countries, we see tremendous focus on education. Education, education, education was the mantra of my last government. But in this part of the world, it is being done. And you know, 10 million new graduates in China alone last year. Absolutely astonishing. So, a lot of stuff happening, a lot of money in place. President Obama would love to have the $2.7 trillion that are sitting in reserves in China, but it's all over here. So, it's an amazing story that we're about to consider in a bit more detail later, the story of how Asia is growing so magnificently. But before we get there, let's remind ourselves that there are problems in the world. Look at this dear old man, and he's telling us that if he'd known he was going to live this long, he would have taken better care of himself. Because we will soon have 4 billion more citizens on this planet. From 6 to 10 billion, it will move quickly. And it's growing, and we're getting older, but we're not getting fitter. So there are many, many, many problems in meeting the healthcare needs of the world. And also, people say we have a financial crisis. They say we have an energy crisis. So, all kinds of difficulties to face, and again, that's why we need innovation. And look what's happening in the West. This is Europe. Manufacturing industry is becoming much less part of the economic scene. 70% of the European gross domestic product now depends upon service industries. That's not a criticism. It's a fact. Why has it happened? Because manufacturing, of course, has migrated. This is a picture of a typical place in China. And as I say to my friends in the West, hey guys, here's your competition. You really think you can compete with factories like that are making, in this case, iPhones? Forget it. We've got to think of the world in a different way than we have in the past. And those of you from the West have got a wonderful opportunity to do all kinds of stuff to make things happen. Now, Mandarin speakers, tell me what that word says. 2-character word. Weiji. Weiji. Why am I showing you a 2-character Mandarin word? Well, from what I've just said, some people might take the view that the Western world is in crisis. And Weiji can mean crisis or risk, but it can also have another meaning. As Chinese people know, it can mean opportunity. So my message to everyone I speak to is that use this Chinese thinking of a way of looking at the world, because if you look at the world with the right eyes, you will see opportunity, and you can turn crisis into opportunity. And for those who read English literature, another great man said that thing, the same sort of sense in a different set of words, in the opening words of A Tale of Two Cities. He said it was the best of times, it was the worst of times. Life is what we make it. So, we should get on with it and be very positive. So let me get to the main picture show today. Where do heroes and heroines fit in to this world? And where have they fitted into the world that's developed before? Well, maybe you agree with me that heroes and heroines, they do explore, they discover, they risk, of course, they believe with passion. They have great passion. They have creativity. They change things for the better, they enable, and they visualize. They visualize a lot. And you're visualizing a lot. I'm looking at these plans and thinking, hey, there's a lot of vision in stuff I'm seeing here. And we find these kinds of people in all walks of life. I'm very, very keen to point out that entrepreneurship isn't just about starting a little business and making some money. It's a bigger deal than that altogether. Because we find heroes and heroines moving from one job to another, from one sector to another, from one function to another. So let's think positive. Who has a dream? Who has a dream? I'm glad some hands have gone up, because I would have been very disappointed if not. This man had a dream, didn't he? Do you remember? Remember? I have a dream that the day will come when my 2 small children will be judged not by the color of their skin, but by the quality of their character. His dream transformed the world. He sacrificed himself for his dream. Now, we don't all have to have such big dreams, but dreams are very important. Let's look a few more dreamers and heroes. Can anyone name that man for me? His initials are CC. Christopher Columbus. Whoa, what's he got to do with entrepreneurship? Well, he sailed into the unknown, didn't he? 600 years ago or something like that. He and his brave colleagues jumped into those rickety little wooden boats, and 3 times they did this. 3 times they sailed into the oceans of the world. They didn't know where they were going. Some of them thought the world was flat. They might fall off the end. When they arrived somewhere, they weren't sure where they were. And when they struggled back home, they couldn't tell anyone exactly where they'd been. Now, this is not what we learn in business school about how to be successful, is it? But without that kind of risk and exploration, we don't have entrepreneurship. So, a quest for new knowledge, for wealth, and taking risk. Now, although he sailed 600 years ago, he didn't sail before this man. And I would bet that most of the Chinese people present know who that is. Tell me who that is. Zheng He. Now, what Western people don't appreciate is that Columbus was not the first man to sail around the world. That this man, who was 7 feet tall and the admiral of the Ming fleet, he did it 80 years before Columbus. And his ships, 62 of them, were 10 times the size of Columbus's ships. So Zheng He, 7 feet tall, but he had a tough start to life. And here's a message for entrepreneurs. It's never going to be easy, guys. Dear Zheng He, when he was 11, he was a Muslim. He was captured. He was ritually castrated. Ouch. He was put in prison. And he had a really, really difficult start to life. But he eventually got out of jail and he became the second most powerful man in China. So he moved from the depths to the heights. And there's a good lesson there, that we have to overcome obstacles. You will not all suffer the same fate as Zheng He. Thank goodness you won't. But if you're going to be a successful entrepreneur, you will have obstacles to overcome. So here's a wonderful drawing of the human heart. That was also done 600 years ago. And there's something very interesting about that drawing, because the man that did it, he also gave us beauty as well as science. Tell me who he was? You know who he was. A giant amongst men, Leonardo Da Vinci. And he has some interesting lessons for us. He was born into poverty. He didn't have a university education. He was apprenticed to a craftsman. And he spread himself across academia, science, art. And his lesson is that if we have a broad mind, life can be very rich indeed. So some of us have to be specialists, but maybe we don't have to be specialists too early in our lives. Anyone know who that is? He went to Trinity College at the age of 17, and he went as someone who had to pay for his education. He had to work for the older people at Trinity. And he sat under an apple tree, this guy, and an apple fell on his head. And now you all know who he is, don't you? So Isaac Newton. And what did he end up doing? He didn't end up being a scientist, a wonderful mathematician, and so on. He ended up running the Royal Mint, and he was responsible for the deaths of more forgers. He caught the forgers. Remember, it was all coins in those days. So he moved around a lot, a great hero of science. Now there's a young boy who grew into a wonderful man, and he changed the world with his ideas. And that was Charles Darwin. He was a Cambridge man too. He was a Christ College man. And of course he explored. We're talking about exploration and a world without borders. He toured the world for a long time. There are still people like Mrs. Palin in America who don't believe in his theories. Anyone remember the book he wrote, the famous book? Yeah, you've got it. And he talked about evolution, didn't he? But he didn't tell us that only the biggest and the strongest survive. What did he tell us? He told us that if we are flexible and adapt to change, what was I saying earlier about change, then we are going to survive. Yeah, it was a wonderful life. That was his ship, HMS Beagle. And as a young man, he spent his 3 years of life at sea discovering wonderful things. And yes, the book was called The Origin of Species, and it's still a great work today. Now, you all know who that is, another hero. How'd you like to spend 27 consecutive years in prison? I asked that question in the European Parliament, and they didn't ask me back to speak to them again, because they thought I was giving them a message, which of course I was. Anyone been to this place, Robben Island? Yeah? Isn't it an amazing experience to go and look at that cell? 18 years in that cell, no proper bed. And what did he tell the other prisoners every night? You must not hate the guards, he said. They are victims too. What a state of mind. What a hero. And of course, we've got people with us here from another great nation that produced another great man who, sitting here doing his morning post, Look at what he told us. Look at these words. He said, we have to be the change we want to see in the world. And I know some of you believe in that, and that's what you're seeking to do. And it's wonderful. And that, of course, is Mahatma Gandhi. Okay, Chinese people. Going back in time again, you know who this is, don't you? Confucius. Confucius seems to be back in fashion, which is rather good, I think. Because amongst the words on that slide, teaches that people are improvable, perfectible through ongoing endeavor. And you've endeavored a lot to get here. So you're in the Confucius tribe. And from China, this man is not the one who said capitalism was bad. Another man born in poverty, had a difficult life. People tried to destroy him continuously. That is Deng Xiaoping. And that's what he said: to get rich is glorious, open the markets. And that was the moment when China started to become the modern market economy that you see around you today here in Hong Kong and China. And by the way, I haven't forgotten India. I don't want my Indian friends here to think I'm ignoring India, but I am in Hong Kong. And when I come to India, all my slides will be more about India than China. But India is growing very, very fast. So congratulations to India and the Indian economy too. So don't feel left out, but we are in China at the moment. Okay, there's a lady. Marie Curie, cancer. Radiography, saved millions and millions. I didn't want the ladies here to feel left out today. We have got heroines as well as heroes. And here's another one, a very severe looking lady this, eh? She changed the world. The lady with the lamp. The nursing profession was born in the Crimean War. Florence Nightingale was the lady who made all that happen, and goodness me did she get some criticism. Wow, heroes get a lot of criticism. They're not always popular. Now there's a lady you may not recognize. Votes for women. You will be surprised when you see in a moment what date it was before in my great country, the great democracy of the UK, women got the same voting rights as men. This is Emmeline Pankhurst. She really fought hard to get the vote for women. Anyone hazard a guess when women got full franchise voting in the UK? You might be surprised. 1928. That isn't so long ago, is it? It's amazing. See, change doesn't always come easy. Entrepreneurs don't have an easy time, usually. Now, you all know who that is. What a heroine. And I'm very interested to notice that amongst the plans that I'm reviewing, and that our other people are reviewing here, we see quite a lot that I would call social enterprise. Entrepreneurship is about people, not just money. Social enterprise, social responsibility are very important aspects of business, and of course this lady changed the world and how it thought. Any Canadians present? Okay, you know why those words are important? Mr. Watson, come here, I need you. Yeah? Tell me why. Great. Those were the first words conveyed by telegraphy in 1871 in Ontario, and here's the guy with his machine, the man that gave us the telephone, Alexander Graham Bell, and anyone that ever goes to Canada. And by the way, I'm a visiting professor at McMaster University in Hamilton, so I go there a lot. A Scotsman in Canada, the telephone. And talking of kind of telegraphy and broadcasting, there's Marconi, a great Italian, gave us broadcasting, brought a lot of his work to the UK and built his factories there. And here is one of my real heroes. I'm from the medical profession, so, you know, medicine and healthcare is big in my life. This man did not die until quite recently. He was 94. And his story is an interesting story of how improvisation and how innovators, from time to time, they have to make do and mend with all funny things. You don't always have everything you want to get done the job that you want. This man, during the war, was in Holland, which was occupied by the German forces, and he was a medical guy, and he took an old washing machine and some used car parts, and he built the first ever artificial kidney machine. There's a picture of it in 1942. That's William Kolff. He built that kidney machine from bits and pieces of old machinery. So entrepreneurship isn't all about going to Cambridge and Hong Kong Poly. You can go there, great, but when you get out of there, you may have to improvise a bit and do some interesting stuff that you didn't think you'd have to do.